Welcome to another episode of Southern Arizona's Nonprofits, the superheroes impacting our community. We're broadcasting live today on the Tucson Business Channel, a division of Mark Bishop Media, from the Stewart Title corporate offices on Broadway in Tucson. This show is brought to you by SCIP, SSCIP, the Social Service Contractor Indemnity Pool, ensuring nonprofits like ours for more than 3.5 decades. I'm Barbara McClure, Executive Director of Impact of Southern Arizona, host of the show, and with me today are two women representing nonprofits working to improve driving safety for the public and for our local law enforcement teams. And we'll be talking about distracted driving awareness, teen road skills for emergency situations, a big give, and more. So please join me in welcoming Julie Festerling, Executive Director of Phones Down, Just Drive. Thank you for joining us today, Julie.
Thank you for having me on the show today, Barbara. This is really exciting to be a part of this group.
Well, great. And we have a lot of fun things to talk about going on in your life. And then Bonnie, also for you, Bonnie Faircloth. She's our Executive Director of SANFP, which is Southern Arizona Law Enforcement Foundation. Thank you
so much for having me. I always enjoy the opportunity to talk about the good work that we do, and I'm supporting our police.
That's great. And I was going to start with you and ask you, on your website, you have so many different badges. So maybe you could share with our listeners, because they're from all over the region and some from out of state, which agencies are you supporting?
So the Southern Arizona Law Enforcement Foundation, and I'll go ahead and just refer to it as SANFP going forward. It's a little shorter. We partner with and support 7 local law enforcement agencies here in the Tucson Metro, Pima County area. And so 7 of them, it started with Tucson Police Department, and then we used to be called Tucson Police Foundation when we started in 2003, and then we found the need arose and a lot of the local agencies needed some of the support that we were giving Tucson Police Department. So we went ahead and expanded, and we changed our name to better define the 6 additional local law enforcement agencies that we partner with. And so we brought on Marana Police, U of A Police, the Pima County Sheriff's Department, Oro Valley Police, the Tucson Airport Police, and Pima College Police.
Wow, that's neat. Wow. All those little extra agencies, too, which is nice. The smaller ones. I bet they really could use the support.
Yes, they absolutely do.
I like your new name, too, because you know that my mother-in-law, who was an older woman, she ended up getting scammed by one of those companies that they'd always call and say, we're the foundation that supports the police or the firemen, and so when she had to move out of her place where she was, we had found all these boxes full of things that she bought to support them, where 85% of it was admin fee.
Yes.
So it's nice to clarify that you are not that group.
No. And
that you probably have a very small percentage going to admin fee and mostly to the agencies.
We absolutely do. I'm the sole employee, and it's kind of reversed. It's 85%, almost 90% that goes to the cause, and then the rest is administration.
Perfect. And we want everyone to know that for sure, so they can support you and support all those agencies.
Thank you.
Great. Can you tell us what kind of work you do to support them? What are the kinds of things you provide?
So SANFP's mission is to basically raise money, and it's for critical life-saving equipment and officer training opportunities, safety training opportunities, and advanced technology and software options or opportunities for our local law enforcement. So basically what we do is we raise money to help protect our protectors. Everything that we fund for them has to do with some sort of piece of equipment that they can add to their belt, so to speak, whether it's a ballistic vest, some sort of safety adapter for their weapon on their or the holster on their robotic types of equipment. So we call it advanced entry. So it's a robot that goes into blind spots and has audio, visual. So it feeds back to the officers that are waiting to go in, or if someone needs help, and so the feedback is helps them stay safe. So everything that we do helps protect our officers. We want them to go home at the end of the day, kiss and hug their loved ones.
That's a great mission, I think. And we have so many law enforcement officers, and like you say, when you spread it across sheriff in the whole county, and then all those individual police departments. That's a lot of people.
Yes. And it's not our, we don't aim to replace that department's budget. That's the responsibility of the city or the town or the county to provide them with what they need. But sometimes there's urgent things that come up that aren't part of their budget. So we'll either, if it doesn't cover the entire amount that they need, we will supplement. Or if it's something that we can fund, we will fully fund it. We will fully fund it for them.
That's interesting. Do you do it through a grant process, or do you just do it through your relationships?
So along the way, every day, we are actually raising money and building our resources. So when we get a request for funding, we actually have it available. So we do fundraising events. We do grant writing. We take corporate sponsorships. We will do endowments. We just recently received an incredible endowment from a local business person. So that's how we raise the money. That's how we continue to build our resources so that we can go ahead and fund the requests and assist when they need it.
Sure. And I know the websites of our guests are on the episode page, so you can always have access to these, the context for these two gals. But I was curious if you, when you were talking about fundraising, are there ways then that the public can find out what your fundraisers are? Are they listed on your website when you have them going?
Absolutely, yes. Our website is soazlef.org, and anytime that we have an upcoming event, all the information's there. If it's something that you register for or you want to sponsor, you can do it all online.
Sure.
Or you can call me.
There you go. What's an example of a fundraiser that you do?
So we have our 10th annual golf tournament coming up this Saturday, as a matter of fact. It's called Thank a Cop Golf Tournament. It's going to take place at Arizona National, and we have all 7 of our agencies out there on display at the tee boxes, and some of them play as well. But for the most part, most of the participants are supporters of law enforcement, and they're participating in the golf tournament.
Well, that's very fun. Maybe if you hear this podcast quickly, you can zip out to the golf.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Just watch it if you can't get in.
Or just
already.
come on out and say hi to all the officers from the 7 different agencies. So,
yeah, that sounds like a nice way to spend a gorgeous Saturday in Tucson.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, Julie, what about you? I know your nonprofit has such an interesting name. Phones down, just drive. So can you tell us about what that is, what the mission is, and then maybe how you got it started?
Sure. So Phones Down, Just Drive is exactly what it says. We're just encouraging people to put their phone down and just drive. So back in 2021, there was a law that was started. January 1st is when it went into effect. It was actually passed back in 2019, and they did an educational preliminary period there. But the law went into effect January 1st, 2021, where now law enforcement can issue citations. And the law says that when you are driving, you are not to manipulate any kind of electronic device, whether it's a tablet or a cell phone or your watch on your wrist that a lot of people are using to listen to text messages or interact with different things. So any part of your body is not supposed to be touching an electronic device that you are manipulating. So we're just raising awareness on that, just encouraging people, be safe when you're driving. You have one job to do and focus on that. The reason we started the nonprofit is because on November 13th, 2019, my daughter and her boyfriend were just driving, and they were unfortunately rear-ended by a distracted driver who ran into the back of their car, pushed them into oncoming traffic, and my daughter and her boyfriend both did not survive the crash. My daughter was 21. Her name is Caitlin, and her boyfriend was 22. His name is Paul. And it was really hard to get that news. And we thought, let's turn the pain into purpose. Let's get off the couch. Let's get out of bed. Let's go do something to hopefully save lives so that other moms don't have to feel this pain. Let's get kids back home. Let's not tear families apart if there's anything we can do to prevent that. So that's it in a nutshell. Phones down, just drive, and arrive alive.
Very nice. Oh, and I like that, and arrive alive.
Yes.
That is a good thing to add because I think we all know it, not just because it's a law, but I think instinctively, obviously, if we're distracted, we're not focused on driving. But I see it all the time, even today. It's kind of a crazy thing.
Yes.
And what a tough way to have to launch a nonprofit. But what a neat idea to honor both Caitlin and Paul with that. That's a very cool thing.
And we know they're guiding us. They're watching over us. They're still with us. We just can't see them.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, you're doing a great job, great purpose for sure. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
And then how do you get the word out in the community? I mean, I know it's a hard thing to change people's behavior. And so beyond just having that title, what kinds of things do you do to get the community on board?
So we have several different ways that we get our message out there. A lot of it is social media. Social media is a great way just to reach thousands of people. But then we also try to get signage out in the community. We have a lot of swag that we pass out. We've partnered up with law enforcement. So if drivers get pulled over for a routine traffic stop, there's a chance they may walk away with one of our flyers, just reminding them what is the hands-free Arizona law. And it gives some nice little graphics and descriptions to not watch movies, don't play words with friends, don't text, the stuff that we think is common sense. Just reminds people of the law. We generally have a booth up at home shows, car shows, and law enforcement and I also get into schools. We like to get into high schools, and we like to talk to just driver's ed classes. We don't have a lot of driver's ed classes anymore. So we get into freshman English or health classes, anywhere where we can just get in front of students who are new drivers. And then we encourage these kids, take this home to your parents, because that's who's really teaching these kids how to drive. The parents are their mentors, and the kids are learning from their parents that it's okay to touch the phone. It's okay to interact. It's okay to look at the phone and not look at the road, which in reality, it's not. It's against the law, and it's not safe.
Sure. And that is an interesting thought that mostly as parents. I know at the time we have 3 boys, and at the time they were all learning to drive, we lived in Washington. And so you could get your learner's permit at 15. And you had to have 6 months, I think, at the time. So we required our kids to have their license or their permit for an entire year because the seasons in Washington are very different throughout a whole year. So having it in the sunny summer doesn't mean you're going to be prepared for the winter and all these crazy things. And so they have lots of fond memories of having to drive all year on a permit before they could get their driver's license. But mostly I think that's a funny story to share where my husband he had our youngest in the car, and he would take them to a big mall parking lot, and he would say, "Oh, you cut that corner, you just caused $10,000 worth of damage." And so as the 3 kids went through that process with Jeff, they'd be like, the second one would come through and they'd say, "How much damage did you cause in the parking lot?" So it became kind of this little funny thing that they were doing. And then on the last one, Parker, the youngest, he was a January birthday, so he was going through the snow with my husband, and my husband said, "You have to be really careful because there's, ice under the snow. You just don't know." And he's slowly going around this cul-de-sac that has these giant trees in it, and in a big, heavy Suburban in the hills, and the Suburban tail end slides out on that ice.
Oh no!
And then took out an entire mailbox stand. So they laughed so hard, it was just crazy. But it's the perfect example because, people think they're in charge. Even when you've been driving for decades, you think you know what you're doing, and you have to be paying attention every moment, to your point, and you have to really understand that you're not really in total control of that car when the conditions are different. So it's just been such a fun thing. But I think that, having the experience is what makes the difference. None of them have ever been in an accident. And so far, so good.
Yes.
So
Knock
far,
on the
so
wood.
Good.
Yeah.
Be thankful for that.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Exactly, because it doesn't have to be their fault. It could be, someone else.
Oh, and that's what I always tell them.
Just be driving and
Yeah.
somebody could crash into them. It
Yes.
happens all the time.
Yes.
But you have to be aware and drive defensively. And
Yes.
if we're looking at something, whether it be our cheeseburger, our mascara, or our cell phone, we're going to miss something that somebody else may be doing.
And reaction time, and
All of that.
you could avoid it yourself. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. The defensive driving is very effective.
That's very effective. We just need to really make sure we're on point when we're behind the wheel.
Exactly.
And I think we tell kids that, they're always like, Mom, I know, Dad, I'm a safe driver. And that's what we always say. We're not worried about you. We're worried about the other people on the road. And this is the perfect point, isn't it, Julie? Really?
It is,
It's
absolutely.
exactly why you're here.
And I hear so many people say too, but we're almost home. Like I hear people say, I don't need to wear a seatbelt. We're just going to the grocery store or we're just going to the gas station. Well, my daughter and her boyfriend, they were just pulling onto his street. They were a block from his house. And you hear it all the time. Crashes happen so close to home.
Yes.
So we just need to not have that mentality. We're not invincible. That's the key. We're not invincible. Anything can happen to anyone at any time.
Yes.
So be ready.
There you go. Be aware. Be aware all the time.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to talk to you, Bonnie, too, because I know your program, your nonprofit, supports a great program called START.
Yes.
And I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us about that because I just think it's the greatest thing. I think everybody should go through it. It should be part of the driver's ed requirement, I think.
I wish that it was. It's because so many high schools don't have driver's ed anymore. It would be great if we were able to get a chance to speak to the high schools and let them know about START. And it's completely free. You don't even have to use your own vehicle. So, yeah.
I didn't know that. That's very cool.
So, basically, START stands for Safe Teen Accident Reduction Training. And so it's geared towards 16 to 19-year-old teens who are licensed already. It's not a learn how to drive. It is something that you can come to once you have your driver's license. And it basically, it addresses, because teens are more dangerous drivers when they first begin driving on their own. And one study found that teen drivers are 50% more likely to be involved in a car accident during their first month of driving alone than in their first year of driving alone. So this indicates that many teens are hitting local roads without the skills they need to drive safely. In addition to being generally less experienced on the road, many teens are susceptible to temptations of their smartphones or other distractions because they do have that fearless mentality, and they basically they may have been taught by an adult that has bad driving habits too.
True, too.
So they take those on, and then on top of, there's so many more distractions for our teens that are starting to drive now too in the vehicles. I mean, there's even digitals in the vehicle too that distracts them. So never mind their phones, because they're always on those as well. And distracted driving car accidents are increasingly common in Arizona, and it appears part of the reason so many teens are involved in distracted driving crashes. So the Tucson Police Department and the Southern Arizona Law Enforcement Foundation wish to inform parents, teens, and high school administrators about START program and implore teens to take advantage of this life-saving program. START classes are offered at no charge to licensed and insured teens between the ages of 16 and 19. And the teens will basically come to a 5-hour class. So, and the instructors are Tucson Police Department and some of our local agencies that are also our partners. They're professional driving instructors. And so the teens get to sit in a classroom for about 45 minutes, just a little run through, and then the next 4 hours they're behind the wheel with the instructor right next to them. And they go through 5 different maneuvers, and they're kind of, it's based on critical information and decision-making, judgment, and basic motor vehicle driving skills related to commonly encountered collision factors, things that they will encounter for the first time as a teen and a new driver out on the road. And so what they will maneuver through is evasive steering, controlled braking, basic skid control, off-road pavement recovery, and anti-lock brake system familiarization. And then about 6 years ago, we added a cockpit simulator, driving
fun.
simulator, so that we could actually, what it does is the teen sits in it, and it's a complete simulator, and that's how they experience, and it shows them how much, when you text and when you're distracted, how much it affects your driving and your ability to react, because there's a cell phone attached to this cockpit, and the instructor will text, and you're informed while you're driving, informed to react to that text, and the simulator is analyzing all of this. So that's a better option than doing it practically out on the
Sure.
But that cockpit simulator is something that the foundation was able to acquire through a grant through State Farm. So, and they're coming up on needing a new one. So we're actually actively doing that here, and we should have another one in place by the time the new driving season starts. The new begins, because it kind of follows a traditional school season. So classes take place between August and May. And then they usually take place 2 Saturdays a month, and each Saturday there are 2 classes. And so we send 40 students each weekend that there is a class and they complete that class.
That's great.
Yes.
I think, and if you were a parent and you were trying to get your student to do this, and they're saying, "Oh, I don't need that," all you have to do is show them the video on the organization's website,
Yes.
because it shows cars skidding through rain, water, and trying to drive around a track. So,
Yes.
It's all things that kids, visually, it just looks like a very fun day. Where if your parents trying to get you to go to learn how to drive, that might be a little more difficult to convince them of.
And it is mostly the parents that are encouraging them, we'll say that in quotes, to go. And they do tend to come kicking and screaming. Their attitude changes from the time that they check in to the time that they leave. They've made a rapport with the police officer and the driving instructor, and a rapport with the other teens that are in the car, because they kind of cycle through
that's
per vehicle. And yes, they go through the skid pad. So the skid pad is wet down, and you have to drive through turning and braking without hitting any of the cones. And the first time through, they literally skid out. I mean, they just they spin out.
They think they know how to do it.
Exactly.
Sure.
It is definitely an awakening, and they make them go through it until they're able to master it.
Nice.
Yeah, and then of course there are other maneuvers and that they go through, that they run the teens through. So, and there are many, many testimonials, parents or the teens themselves, that will contact my office and tell them they were able to utilize that training, and it kicked in, and they felt that it saved their life or the life of the other driver.
That's great, because I think you don't know it until you actually go
Yes.
through it. I mean, I think that was the funny part of Jeff, who was a great driver in the snow for many, many years. He was just kind of surprised. And, I think people think they know what to do. And even for me, Jeff will say, "Oh, you have to remember that when you're going to skid, you have to turn the wheel in the reverse direction." He's full of all these things. And I'm thinking, well, even if I remember it, in that moment when I'm going to need it,
Some people freeze.
will it be like the first thing that comes to the foreground? I'm not sure.
Yep. But when you go through this training, and because it's free, you can go back. And a lot of teens do. They are our best advertisement. They will go tell their friends, and they can come back because it doesn't cost anything. So we do have some teens that, go through, 2 or 3 times, and they bring some of their friends with them each time. And, we love it. We love it. That's what we encourage. And so it's so terrific to see the transformation from the time that they get there, from the time that they leave, and and they go away with just so much more skill on their belt.
Oh, sure. I'm sure it's a great confidence builder.
Yes.
And I like the simulator. Don't you think that sounds like fun, Julie?
That does. And I'm sitting here thinking, you said ages 16 to 19. Okay, I'm a little older than that, but I'm wondering, how do I sign up?
We do get a lot of people that say, "How come you don't have these for adults?" Because adults could really use these classes. And it's true, no doubt. But our funding is focused on teen drivers and the statistics that they face in crashes and fatalities.
Sure. Well, we'll have to find a way over time to expand it. Maybe that's something you could do, Julie. Put one of those simulators in your office and have people come have adults come down and and be surprised at how distracted they really are when they're on their phones. Or your comment about like the watch. I don't think about that, but I'm sure people are doing that on a watch too.
They are. They're
I've never
looking at
even
their
thought of
watch.
that.
They're trying to read the text on the watch, and that watch face is really tiny, so they're definitely not looking at the road. They're squinting to look at that.
Yes.
And we've talked about getting one of those simulators to take to home show, to take to car meets.
That would
If
be
it's
fun.
Seeing your picture, it looks like it could be kind of compatible. If
It's portable.
it is, yeah, we could take the portable. Sorry,
Yeah. Yeah. No.
if we could do something like that, and have something out, that would really draw a lot of attention at these different events we do.
Absolutely. And it
People
would
need
be-
to feel it. They need to know, what does it feel like to experience that without the real thing they're experiencing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. I think that's a neat idea. Well, maybe with your recent award, your big money donation, maybe you could do something like that. So the audience doesn't know this yet, or some probably do because it's a small town, Tucson. But recently, Julie's nonprofit won a giant award of money just a couple of weeks ago, actually, I think. It's gone, the calendar's flying fast. But maybe you can share with the audience how much you won from an amazing group called 100 Plus Women Who Care Tucson.
100 Plus Women Who Care Tucson is such an amazing group. It's just such an exciting night when we all get together, hundreds of women in one room, supporting our local nonprofits. So that night, they chose 3 nonprofits out of the hat, like they always do, 3 different ones. And that night, it was Youth on Their Own, Junior Achievement. And we about freaked out when the third one was called, and it was Phones Down, Just Drive. And we screamed and we hooted and hollered and all of that good stuff. And then went up on stage and presented who we are, what we need from the community, what kind of support we could use, and what we would do if we were selected to receive the big give. And we thought we were excited when we were just called to be on stage. And then when they announced the winner, we really got excited. Like, if there was more room in the room, we probably would have done cartwheels.
Oh, I would imagine. It was an exciting night. I was there.
It was really exciting. So anyway, and since that night, talking to Desha the other day on the phone, she said 45 more members joined since that night. So that was really exciting that we definitely got people's attention and got more membership. But anyway, they deposited into our account this past week $65,100.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That's a lot of
awesome.
money just from our community, women coming together.
Yes. That is so impactful.
It is. We have a lot of women in this town who are mothers and who understand the importance of protecting our babies.
There you go.
We have that natural motherly instinct to take care of others. And they showed it that night.
They did.
They did.
And how?
Well, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and explain kind of how that worked. And we'll talk more about how we can keep the officers safe and help our roads be safe from all kinds of other drivers.
Today's program is brought to you by SKIP, the Social Service Contractors Indemnity Pool. SKIP is a member-owned, member-directed insurance provider with more than 3 decades of insuring Arizona social service organizations for their property, general and professional liability, and auto claim exposures. With an Arizona-based staff of claim underwriting and risk management professionals, SKIP specializes in providing personalized service, affordable premiums, and coverage which meets and often exceeds the state of Arizona's contract requirements for social service providers. For more information, visit our website at www.sscip.org or ask your insurance agent about protecting your organization with insurance coverage through SKIP.
Welcome back. We are here today at Southern Arizona Nonprofit Superheroes, talking to 2 superheroes, Julie Festerling and Bonnie Faircloth, and we're talking about safety in driving in particular and protection for law enforcement members who are out there on the roads every day doing all kinds of things, on the roads and off the road when they come to a call. So we were just talking about the Phones Down Just Drive Award from the 100 plus women. And I know Julie was talking about her award was, what was it again,
$65,100. And then there's actually going to be another $5,000 because the Schultz Foundation
Yes.
also gives another $5,000. So
The Schultz Foundation is a really neat group. Mr. Schultz was the founder of Best Buy, and he sold Best Buy not too long ago, the whole corporation, and I think he sold it for something like $11 billion. And he didn't really want to be a big billionaire, so he was on a mission to give away some of his money, and he adopted the 100 plus women in America, all 600 chapters across the U.S., and he is adding $5,000 to the prize for every one of the 4 gives last year and this year across all 600 nonprofits. So he's giving like $12 million a year away through 100 plus women. So it's a very cool thing.
Yes,
it's very generous. That was a nice surprise to hear that also is coming. I thought $65,000 was a lot of money, and then they added more to it.
And what a great thing for a startup. So I want to get back to that too for you for later. But I think a lot of people are not so familiar with 100 plus women. So one of the exciting things beyond Julie winning that award and Julie's organization having that funding is that it was also our $1 million mark. So since the beginning, what happens is every quarter, the 100 plus women gather together for 2 hours. The first hour is really just a mixer, and the second hour is all business. And they end up raising money through memberships. And so when you come to the big give, it depends on how many members are enrolled in that month. So this was the April big give. So the fact that Julie won $65,000 means that 650 members are already part of this amazing giving circle. And so the neat thing is that next month it'll be more. And Julie was just saying, 45 more members had joined since then. So by the time we get to July 18th, that big give could be worth $70,000. And we are trying to reach the 1,000 member mark by the end of this year, 2024. But in the time that the 100 plus women in Tucson started to Julie's give, we topped the $1 million mark. So these women who have been doing these giving circles for really only about
8.5 years. 8.5 years. And I think we were either number 34 or 35 in all of the gives over the 8.5 years.
Sure. Isn't that something?
That's amazing.
And that's what was so neat about this big give in April, too, was number one, hitting that million mark. But number two was seeing all of the previous recipients come back. And we just filled the circle of giving. It was just so neat to see everybody else come back. And they each held up a heart in front of them with the name of their organization and how much money that they were given. And just to see that number grow. Back in the day, it was 19,000, 24,000. It just went up and up and up and up around the circle. And then ours was 63,000, whatever. And then 45 more members joined right after we did our presentation. So that's what bumped it up to the 65,100 were those additional memberships.
That's very cool. So what happens at these membership meetings, they're the once a quarter, and the members come, but members can invite guests. And you can even go on the 100 Plus Women website, and if you want to come because you don't know a member, you can sign up on that website to come as a guest. But what's neat is when the guests come and they hear all of the nonprofits talk about the amazing work they do, and it's just so energizing that they can't help but join by the time they leave. So that's where those extra 45 came in, I'm sure. So that's a very invigorating day, isn't it?
It's powerful. It's just so many amazing women in one room, all these women under one roof, and they're just so generous and kind, and they want to make our community better. So that energy, it's just contagious.
It really is. And here in Arizona, it's not true in all states, but in Arizona, there are certain qualified charities that people can donate to, and you get it taken off your taxes as a tax credit. So not just a deduction like you have on your federal taxes, but you literally get your dollars back in a sense, because you're not having to. If I owe the taxman $500, my $400 that I contributed to 100 Plus Women means I only have to pay the taxman $100.
It's a dollar for dollar tax credit.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty amazing.
It is a great thing. And so I think what happens is it's a way to give to so many different wonderful causes that you don't even know about. And this is why so many people join it.
And the list is getting longer and longer of nonprofits. Sitting there in the crowd this last time, I was looking at the form and I couldn't believe how many nonprofits are on the list. And I wish I knew the number. But one thing I did notice is the list got longer because the font got smaller. They needed, because it's just on the back side of the paper, so they need to make the font smaller so that they all fit. And anyway, so nonprofits can get vetted. It's not just any nonprofit can show up and then their name goes into the hat. They get researched very thoroughly. It's a vetting situation, and they're very particular with whom they allow. So they know if the members vote for this nonprofit, they know the money's going to a reputable, good cause.
Sure. And I think one of the really fun things that happened in Tucson is that one of the members had a teenage daughter who decided that she would like to start a teen club. And so now there's a group of teenagers, and they only have to give, the members in the 100 Plus give $100 every quarter. But the teens only have to do $25 a quarter. So it's affordable for teens. And I think, do you remember, Julie, did they say that the teens had already passed $50,000?
They have. They've already distributed over $50,000.
And they're relatively new club. I think
That's
a couple
amazing.
of years, isn't it?
That's a great idea. What a great way to build community and
It is.
kind of grow it from the teen age up.
Right, to bring philanthropy as
Yes.
part of their culture.
Yes.
And now we have a Guys Who Give also in Tucson. So did you want to mention about the July 18th meeting? Because that will be fun.
Sure. So July 18th is our next big give, and we're opening that one up to men and women. So it will be a combination of the 100 Plus Women who give and the 100 Plus Men who also care. So that's going to be a lot of people in the ballroom at La Paloma. Get there early and get parking and carpool if you can. This last event, it was really hard to find parking.
That's right.
There were a lot of people there. So if people can carpool, I think that would make a lot of sense.
And you can check those websites if you're interested. If you're a listener and you're interested in learning more about it, you can, if you don't know a member already of either the 100 Plus Women or the Guys Who Give, you can go to those websites. Maybe we can put those on our episode page, and then you can come to the meeting. You can sign up to participate. And you don't have to pay the $100 to come as a guest. That was an important point that Julie made before. So you can come as a guest for free. But beware, you might want to join by the time you leave.
Yes. Come as a guest for free. Just come check it out. You'll fall in love. I mean, maybe it's not for everybody, but most people who show up really fall in love with the energy in the room.
Sure. So that's a good date to put on the calendar. So I was thinking also, we were talking about earlier about the screens and things. And, we have, we were riding in a Tesla, someone else's Tesla. And I was surprised at how big. Have you seen inside a Tesla? It looks like a computer screen that's giant.
That's just all that it is. There's nothing else in a Tesla, it seems like.
That's right. The
screen.
dashboard, the dashboard's not even there. The dashboard is on the screen, and you're watching the car drive between lanes. I was thinking at the time how distracting that was. Even just in the back seat, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know how the drivers stay focused on that. And
There's like less in the car, but except for the screen, but it's more distracting.
I thought so.
So I probably shouldn't admit that I drive a Tesla.
Oh, that's all right. You know not to be distracted, Julie.
Yeah.
But I know not to be distracted. And really the only reason I do drive a Tesla is because I worked for Tesla. So it just kind of made sense. And
Sure.
I
Well, there's nothing
I
wrong
work
with
in that
driving a Tesla.
industry. But to your point, though, it is very easy to get distracted. But Elon Musk and his engineers, though, have implemented a lot of software to prevent distracted driving, or at least to remind the driver you do have a responsibility to keep your eyes on the road. So even though that big iPad is right there, there's a lot of things if you want to do them, like if your kids want to do karaoke in the car, you have to physically click the button that says, I am the passenger. So you are taking responsibility clicking on that. Full self-drive. I'll be honest, the car really does drive better than a lot of people.
Well, we're probably getting into that era very soon. I think there's so many cars anymore that have the lane guidance assistance or whatever they call that. And I see it more and more in vehicles as we go.
But you just have to avoid temptations. We all have it no matter what car we drive. There's temptation all around us, and it's the driver's responsibility to stand firm and avoid it.
Sure. And I think having come from Seattle, we moved here from Seattle. The other thing, when you live in Seattle, you're so used to driving in the rain. And this is why I think the SMART class is so great, especially for teenagers, because here in Tucson, we don't get as much rain, and it's not all year or constant like it is in Seattle. And so what happens on the roads, and I think people don't realize this, is that when you're in Tucson, while people are driving, there's oils that get deposited on the roads, and they seep into the asphalt or to the concrete, depending what kind of road you're driving on. And then, of course, what happens is when the rain comes, all that oil rises to the surface, and suddenly the roads are slick, and people don't realize that a little bit of rain wet, the road has to barely be wet for it to be oily. And so that's why I think that the driving class for teens is so great. And I agree, it would be nice to have them for adults.
Yes.
I would love to go check that out. Even if we can't participate, I would love to just be a part of it, watching it and seeing, interacting with the kids.
And you can actually, the parents or guardians, they're welcome to stay for the in-class hour. They can actually listen to what the instructors are lecturing on, and then they can watch the teens as they're out on the course. It's a closed course. It's out at the Tucson Police Academy, and so it's as safe and secure as possible. But the parents and guardians can stay back. But you can completely watch, and you can speak to the instructors as they walk by, and it's actually watching might actually be a learning experience. Give you a little bit of a learning experience as well, since you can't be in the car.
I think it's important to have the parents out there. One of the state troopers that I partner up with and go into classrooms with, he shares his statistics with the students and with me. And it's interesting, statistics around the United States show younger drivers being more distracted. His statistics here in Tucson, most of the people he pull over, the average age of males is 41. Average age of females is 40. So it's the parents. It is the parents that are trying to multitask. And it would be good for parents to see what you guys are teaching out there.
Yep, it would be just as effective for the adults because of just the distracted driving, elements that, are facing everybody. And then they're teaching their kids, and they're modeling their kids as they teach them how to drive the wrong way. So they're gonna do the same thing that their parents do.
And I think it's having that experience to know, like how to manage the car on the road. And like I was saying, Jeff can tell me all day long, but unless I'm out on a slippery, slick road and lose control, I did have that experience with my son too, ironically. It was the oldest son, and we were driving home, and it was sleeting, and we were coming from a school event. He was in the 6th grade, and we lived on these mountainy roads, and I was saying, it was dark. It was at the end of an event, so it was probably 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I'm driving home, and we're doing 25 miles an hour in a residential zone, and I'm talking, the mother all about car safety, even though he's got many years before he's going to be driving, and I'm just talking while I'm driving, eyes on the road, and I'm saying, you get sleet, you get dry ice, and all of a sudden going around the curve, we had a van at the time, and the van just slid sideways off and ended up in a ditch on the side of the road. My son was literally the vehicle felt like it was about 45 degrees. So I look up and my young son is up in the passenger seat above me. I'm laughing hysterically at the irony of my having a conversation about safe driving and how the conditions are different. And, like you're saying, if you're not paying attention, and even though I was paying attention and I knew, I had zero control over it. It just happened. It felt like it was slow motion, but it wasn't. And so we got out of the car and we had to walk home. Thankfully, we were only a few blocks away, but we got to the front door and knocked on the front door. And my husband looks out, otherwise we're going in the garage door, right? Everybody comes into their house anymore through the garage. And he opens the door and he goes, where's the van? And I'm laughing hysterically. And, my poor son has big, giant eyes. Like, how are we going to tell Dad? It was fine. It just had to get towed out of the ditch. But I just think that, having that experience on a track is really cool. So we'll have to see if we can raise more money for you. I think that's the answer, Bonnie.
That.
So you can just put it on for adults and
I would
students.
love that. And the instructors would happily do it. I mean, our police officers are out there willing to do anything to impart their knowledge and what they know if it helps keep us safer.
Sure. What is your budget for your organization?
Our budget is right around $250,000.
Sure. And I bet that's an expensive class to put on.
It is, luckily. So since most of the money that we bring in, it's very fluid. We want to have our law enforcement partners make requests so that we can assist them. So it comes, it goes.
Sure.
But with the START program, luckily, the instructors are law enforcement, and it takes place at a law enforcement facility, so there's no rent or overhead, and the officers do it voluntarily or for some sort of comp or flex time. So that saves the city or the agency department budget, and so really the overhead is the supplies. There's a lot that goes into it, actually.
Sure.
So for that particular program, we run about $30,000 to $40,000 a season, or so to speak, a year. And we do get donations. You do register. You can attend the class for free. We do ask, if you can, please make a donation. So donations do come in, and it does pretty much. It's usually a wash. It covers the expenses so that we can sustain the program and continue to have it each year.
Sure. We'll have to have you join the come in, put your name in the basket or be part of the 100 plus women.
I would love to be a guest.
We need to get you qualified, get vetted, and get your name on the list, and that would be fun.
I would truly appreciate that opportunity.
That would be awesome.
And I think people would like that idea. So we'll have to look into that. But that doesn't seem like a huge amount of money to spend for what you get out of it,
Well, absolutely.
So, for the community's sake,
yes,
to 30 to 40,000. So we'll have to find you some sponsors.
Thank you.
Nice. And then, Julie, I think it was such a fun part of your presentation when you talked about what your budget was, because you really have a startup nonprofit, so you're just getting going. So I know the 65,000 plus Mr. Schultz extra 5 is going to be huge for you.
That's a great start, too.
That is a great start, and like we like to tell people, is Mothers Against Drunk Driving had to start somewhere too. DUIs used to not be enforced like they are now. And distracted driving needs to start somewhere. And this is the infancy of it all. So we're excited we get to expand our budget, because that night when I got on stage and they asked, what is your budget? $15,000.
Sure.
So the little guy needs to get started somewhere. And this is just the biggest help. It's awesome. It's really amazing.
Well, you'll be able to do a lot of awareness, a lot of campaigning with that kind of thing. That's
Absolutely.
Great.
We want to get lots of hands-free phone holders into cars. Too many people drive cars that don't have the hands-free capability. So let's get them one of those devices. Let's give it to them so that there's no excuse to put the phone out of the hands, away from the body.
I think that's really important, too, because at Impact, we deal with a lot of low to moderate income families, because we're a social service organization. And when that law first came in, I, of course, appreciate the law for what the law is trying to do. But I thought, it also alienates a whole class of people who are driving cars that don't have speakers built in or don't have a way for it to connect. So I thought, well, all those people are going to be the people getting tickets versus the people who can just, touching the steering wheel say, oh, call Jeff at home today.
Exactly. Hands-free. Exactly.
Yeah. Hands-free. So let's get them some hands-free devices, or let's get them some AirPods they can put in their ears that they can plug into their phone. Something, anything to keep the hands off the phone.
Yes.
And the eyes
and the
on
eyes.
the road.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be working on that for a long time, I'm sure, but it is a very worthy cause, and I think we've got a lot going on. Do you have either of you have any special events coming up, short of your golf tournament, which is in 2 days? Anything a little further out you want to make sure our listeners are aware of?
We do. We actually have an annual car show that has been going on for about 20 years as well, called Cops and Rodders.
Oh, fun.
And so that is SANFP's event, car show, and this year we're combining it with a poker run, because we used to do a poker run as well each year, but we're combining it. We thought that'd be kind of a fun idea, and we are supporting our law enforcement. We're raising money, so we always include law enforcement in everything that we do. So it's it's a great way to raise money. It's a great way to bring the community together to engage in a positive atmosphere with our law enforcement, because they can get up close and personal. The car show that all the officers bring, or all the departments bring their vehicles or assets, or even the canines, and so you can walk up and talk to the officers and pet the dogs and crawl around the equipment, and then of course there's a car show going on too.
I was going to say the other cars. So the standard car show with show cars, and then also you can see the other vehicles. That's a fun idea.
Yes.
And when is that? Do you have a date set or a season?
Yes, we always run the first Saturday in November, and so this year it would be November 2nd.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, cool. We'll make sure that people know that's going on.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then how about you, Julie? Do you have anything organized yet? Or everything is so new to you, I'm sure, in the last few weeks.
Everything's just exciting right now. We are still on cloud 9, but we do have some events. We do some annual events, so we'll keep doing those. We also participate in a car meet on that day. So November 2nd, we'll be at Top Golf for Coffee, Cars, and Clubs. Okay. And our state trooper, Trooper Tim Vargo, he usually joins us there. But hopefully we can have more volunteers, and we could do 2 events that day. And I would love to set up at Cops and Rodders. That would be amazing. And then we have a volunteer, donor, anyone who wants to get involved with Phones Down, Just Drive barbecue scheduled on June 30th. And it's just middle of the afternoon. It's a Sunday, 12 to 2. So we thought, invite the family, come on down. It'll be at Arizona Grill and Hearth, which is near Speedway in Columbus.
Oh, perfect.
Val Romero there, the king of barbecues, offered to barbecue for all of our volunteers, donors, and anybody who wants to show some love and support for Phones Down, Just Drive. So that's June 30th.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for all you're doing for our community. And hopefully some of our listeners will get out there to your events, or they'll reach out to you through your website or your social media, and they'll learn more about what you do and hopefully sign up to participate. So thank you again for coming today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It was so wonderful to meet you, and it was so wonderful to meet you too, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Have a great summer, everyone, and drive safe.